Hey, what is going on? It is 12 noon on Friday, which means it's time for this week's episode of State of Real Estate. My name is John Christman. This show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. We're here every single Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time to help you mastermind to better understand how to grow your real estate business and achieve success in real estate, whatever that definition of success is to you. And what we're talking about today, today's topic, today's subject, if you will, is on business planning. And business planning is so essential so that you could figure out what it is that you want out of your real estate license. You didn't get a real estate license for the sake of getting a real estate license and having a real estate license. What is it that you want to do with that real estate license? What is it that you put in the work for that real estate license? And it's really going to be 3 steps we're going to break this down into. We're going to start off with just understanding the income that you want to achieve. Then second, we're going to break that down on a slightly related note, your gross profit per transaction. And then finally, we're going to use these 2 pieces of information to understand the required actions. So you know, plain and simple, what actions you have to put into your business to get the income that you want out of your business. So we're going to be breaking down this process. I'm going to get some better colors because I know this green is a little bit hard to see on here, but stick with us. I'm John Christman. The show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. You're watching State of Real Estate.
You are watching
State of Real Estate. Every Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time. Grow your real estate business. You're watching State of Real Estate. Hey, welcome back to this week's episode of State of Real Estate. My name is John Christman. We're here every single Friday, as well as Wednesdays, 12 noon Eastern Time, here from the Tampa School of Real Estate. We do this every single week. You tune in on YouTube, on Facebook, on our Success Center, right on our website, wherever it is that you're watching us. Make sure you're subscribed. There's usually a little bell icon or something you can hit so you get notifications so you don't miss out on any of this information, because we're literally out here dropping knowledge, as the kids say, on the daily. But let's get down into business planning here. So first things first, we got to understand income. We got to understand the income that is 2 levels, really, I'd like to say. The income that's necessary, that you need, and then the income that you want. And knowing that this is your backstop of, okay, I need at least this amount, but I want to get up to this amount. Kind of doing this upside down, really. Want probably should be up above. So understanding the needs, this is going to be your basic expenses, the cost to maintain your license, to run your business, the bare minimum, what you need to cover your expenses. And this might include your expenses as well. If you've got rent to pay, a mortgage, a car payment, those types of things, what is the amount that you need at the bare minimum to cover your expenses? But now, how much is it that you want? And then the want is what's going to really kind of fill in the greater picture. Yes, it's everything we need already, but now what on top of that do we want to better understand the income? And this is an exercise that, look, we could do a whole episode just on going through our dreams and dream boarding and figuring out what it is that you want out of life. But hey, look, I'm going to take it that you already have a decent understanding of some of the things that you might want. And look, the benefit of knowing how to do this business planning stuff is you could change what you want. And when you change what you want, you could simply adjust your plan. You could increase the amount of money, decrease the amount of money you need to make, whatever it is. You could find the balance in the system as you build your real estate career. But let's say that after you figure out your expenses, what you need, we're just going to pick an easy number to use this theoretical situation, this theoretical scenario with. But we do actually have a whole business plan calculator right on our website. So this calculator takes you step by step of really going through these same steps it is that we're going to be walking through today. With number 1, what is the income that you're desiring to generate? How much money is it that you want to make? And let's say again that's $100,000. That's our goal. For whatever reason, you added together all your expenses, the desired profit that you want, and so on and so forth, and that puts you at a goal of $100,000. Now look, and don't worry about this being perfect and exact. Start out in doing this and then update it. Especially if you're brand new, you're not going to know a lot of the nuts and bolts of the specifics of your business and how efficiently they operate until you're actually doing it. So a lot of this stuff, when we get deeper down into this, we're making educated guesses to a certain extent, which again, what's important here isn't that you just do this once. It's that you go back to this and you revisit this and you use this to hold yourself accountable to what actions you're taking, because if you're taking the necessary actions on here, you should be getting that desired outcome. Otherwise, there's some other smaller problem probably in your system, in your process, that's choking it up. And this helps you have the clarity to understand where you're running into these obstacles and these speed bumps, because just doing this process, again, even if you're just doing this with theoretical numbers like we're going to do today here, it puts you in a situation where you understand start to finish what this process looks like and where the crucial essential points of this process are. So let's say we want $100,000. Now, let's also say that our average sale price and the average sale price in Hillsborough County is somewhere right around like $330,000. We're going to keep the numbers easy, so we're going to pick $333,000. We'll say that that's your average sale price. Maybe you sell properties that are worth a little bit more than that. Maybe you sell properties that are worth a little bit less than that. Ideally, in the real world, you're doing this off of your actual numbers. So you calculate, to find an average, you can just add together all of your sales and divide that by the number of sales. So you add together all the properties that have sold, all your sale prices, and divide that by the number of sales. That's how you'll find your average of what typically you sell. Sometimes, yes, it is higher commission, higher sale prices, sometimes lower sale prices, but typically on average, that's where you end up. And then you have your average commission. So how much is it that you earn on average? Is that, we're going to again keep this easy here with 3%, but maybe that's 2.5%. Maybe that's 3.5%. Whatever that number is, and this is gross commission, so this is before we factor in brokerage commission splits or anything like that. But let's say you're getting this 3%. Well, that means on every sale, you get $10,000. Now look, we're going to keep this simple for a second, then we're going to complicate it a little bit. Let's say you cleared $10,000 per sale. So at $333,000 at 3%, if you were at a brokerage, or really you ran your own brokerage and you had no fees you have to pay on a per transaction basis, you would have $10,000 there. Now, of course, if you're not a broker running your own brokerage, you're going to have usually some sort of per transaction fee, some sort of commission split, maybe monthly fee, something like that, where these fees are not only covering the cost for the brokerage, but remember, the brokerage is in business just like you're in business, and they're there to make money just like you're there to make money. This is why the planning is so important, because if you don't have a plan for making money, don't worry, the brokerage has a plan for making money off of you. So this is why I always say, if you don't have a plan, you'll end up being part of somebody else's. So this is why it's so important that you develop a business plan so you have a course of action of steps it is that you're going to take. And it starts just by understanding the numbers, because this will help you understand the necessary volume that you need at the end of this process. Because you don't get to your income until you get to a sale, and you don't get to your sale until you get to a client. And you don't get to a client until you got a lead. And so now we're back at square one, where we're getting a lead, but we see the light at the end of the tunnel. We see this process. We've done the math. And when you do the math, this is what makes this real. It's one thing to say you want to make $100,000. It's another thing to know exactly what you need to do to make that $100,000. And yes, you might be guessing to a certain extent at first, especially if you don't know how your business operates exactly yet. But you could always adjust this. Maybe you realize you sell properties at a higher price but a lower commission rate. Or maybe a higher commission rate but with a lower price. So whatever it is, maybe a lower price with a lower commission rate. You do the math so you understand what necessary actions you need to take, because right now we could tell if we want to make 100 grand and we get 10 grand, $10,000 per transaction, we need to do this 10 times. 10,000 times 10 would give us 100,000. We would just have to divide to figure this out if we didn't have such easy numbers here. We could do 100,000 divided by 10,000, and it would say we need to sell 10 houses. Less than one house per month. Notice how I'm now translating that into smaller bits and pieces. Because we don't live in years, we don't live in months, we don't live in days, we live in minutes and seconds. Sometimes hours if we're sitting around waiting for something. But we live in minutes and seconds, so we need to be knowing on a daily basis what it is we need to get accomplished. And this is a good place to start of just how many homes it is that you need to sell. But we need to understand how many appointments we need to have, how many phone calls we need to have, how many leads we need to talk to, how many leads we just need to generate. As you start to assess your business, you could track all of these things and really better understand what goes on in your business. And you'll be able to see, again, where those roadblocks, where those obstacles are. Now look, we're going to go deeper into this business planning, and I know this can seem really overwhelming. Look, we're trying to cram this into a 30-minute online YouTube special about business planning, when in reality, this is something that's a large portion of our post-licensing course. If you've already taken post-licensing, you're probably already familiar with business planning. Maybe you're watching this to revisit this, so maybe you want to go crack back open your course or your textbook from your classroom course or whatever it is to go flesh out your business plan again and revisit that and revamp this, because we could get really detailed and really deep on this. But the post-licensing course, if you haven't taken that yet, the business planning alone is worth the whole cost of that course. Trust me, because when I started in real estate, I was lost. I didn't know what I was doing, and I did not have a plan. So look, we're going to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to talk more about business planning. We're going to dial this into leads, into contacts, into appointments, into daily activities that you can understand what you need to do on a daily basis, because you can't just wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to sell a house today. There's a lot of prerequisites that come before selling the actual house. Number one, having a client that wants to sell a house or buy a house or whatever it is, and not just having one, having multiple. So when you have these deals fall through every now and then, you've got coverage. So stick with us. We're talking all about that and more. We'll be back in just a minute. Have you completed your post-licensing education yet? Look, I know you're probably thinking, hey, it's not my renewal deadline. I don't need to do post-licensing yet. But look, here's why you want to do post-licensing as soon as you've got your real estate license, as soon as you're able to take post-licensing. It's not just another course about arbitrary laws that you're never going to use again. It's about real-world, usable topics that'll help you grow your real estate business, to help you take it to the next level. Look, let me ask you this one question. If this course helps you close just one deal, if you get one extra deal from post-licensing, is it worth the investment? I'd say it is. We get paid pretty well, so one deal means a lot of money. Check out postflorida.com. That's postflorida.com for the full details about post-licensing. State of real estate. Every Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time. Grow your real estate business. You're watching State of Real Estate. Hey, welcome back to this week's episode of State of Real Estate. My name is John Chrisman. The show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate every Friday, 12 noon Eastern Time. Make sure you're subscribed. Hit the thumbs up if you like today's topic on business planning, because as we're just talking about before the break, this really isn't something we could just cover in just 30 minutes. This is a topic that is really forms one of the tent poles of your business, because if you do not have a plan for success, as I said earlier, you'll be a part of somebody else's plan. And that's great for them, but that doesn't always end up being great for you. That's why you need a plan. That's why we recommend taking that post-licensing course before you even go talk to brokers, because then you'll be able to understand what you do with your real estate license, including having a plan of what you want to do with your license, so you could figure out which brokerage is going to be the best fit, because there's not one-size-fits-all brokerages that are out there. Now, one of the things you're going to have interviewing brokers, finding the right broker, is what is the commission split that the broker takes. There's 100% brokerages out there, but even when it's 100%, there's usually some sort of transaction fee, some sort of monthly fee, some sort of annual fees. So there's cost of doing business, and that's really the stuff that you want to, and this is why you might have to do this math and go back and revisit it and rework it, because you might go back to your initial income goal, thinking about the expenses you need to cover. If your broker has monthly or annual fees, that's something you should build into your income goal. So if you had a goal of, let's say, $100,000, but really the brokerage that you're with, it's going to cost you $1,000 a year maybe to have your license there. Maybe they bill that monthly or semi-annually or annually or whatever it is. Well, then make $101,000. So your broker gets their $1,000 and you still get your $100,000. You could plan for this. This is why it's important to understand how to work through this process here, because as your business will have expenses, because all businesses do. All businesses have expenses. You cannot run a business without expenses. Even if you do everything yourself, you still have expenses. At the end of the day, there's the taxes. Those expenses really never go away. On top of all the other expenses that are there. Your licensing fees, realtor dues. A lot of money it is that you could make, but yes, there's a lot of expenses. And if you don't appropriately budget for them and understand what it is that you've got going on there, you'll end up with less income than you want. And nobody wants less income than they want. That's where you get frustrated. So that's why you need to again, rework this and get it really specific around your business. So let's say there is a commission split. Let's say out of this 10,000, let's say your broker, it's a 70-30 split. 70-30 is a pretty common. There's some that are higher than that and some that are lower than that out there, but let's say 70-30. So if this was 70-30 where you get 70% and your broker keeps 30%, well, out of that $10,000, your broker would then get $3,000, and that would leave you with $7,000. $7,000 you would have. So now then the question becomes, math's not quite as easy at this point, so we'll whip out our handy dandy calculator. And we'll take this $100,000 of income that we want to achieve, and we're going to divide that by the $7,000 we've estimated that we're going to have. And now it's not just 10 houses we need to sell. So now we could see that we need to sell 14 houses. Really 14.28. So matter of fact, one of the good practices I always like to use in business planning is you always want to be conservative. You always want to overestimate the actions required and underestimate the outcome. And worst case scenario, you're pleasantly surprised by how much more efficiently you do things than you originally expected. So you figure in that, again, maybe some deals will fall through. Maybe your average sale price drops a little bit. Maybe your average commission drops a little bit. Maybe whatever it is showing you that you need to sell more houses. So it always helps to round up. Instead of the 14.28 or whatever that comes out to, let's say we need to have 15 sales. We do 15 transactions, 15 contract sides at an average sale price of $333,000 and 3%, where we've got a 70-30 split with our broker. So again, we're factoring in that the broker takes 30% of the $10,000 or whatever the commission is there. So that leaves us with $7,000 that says, okay, we need 15 sales. Now, how do we get 15 sales if that is the number that you're trying to achieve? How do you get to these 15? It's not simply 15 clients. It's not simply 15 leads. Really, if we think of this, it's not, and how do we get to 15 sales? Well, that's 15 closings. But you think what immediately precedes a closing, and that's a contract. Now, I'd love to say that all contracts go through, but unfortunately, that's not typically the case. Now, how many exactly you'll have fall through? That depends. There's a lot of things you can do to prevent this. Again, stuff you'll learn about in post-licensing, as well as further. Look, there's never, and as much as I talk about post-licensing, it's not an end-all be-all. It's a start. It's a start where you'll learn a lot of fundamentals if this is all new to you. But this is also stuff you learn as you practice real estate more, as you take more continuing educations and more trainings, and you better understand and become more of a professional. You'll be able to have more of your contracts closed. Now, how do you do that? How do you have more of your contracts closed? Well, let's say you count a contract as a agreed contract, not just an offer, but an agreed contract where both parties have agreed and now they're in a deal. What causes your contracts to fall through? That's the first thing you look at to try to figure out why you have contracts not closing. Is it financing? Okay, well, how do you work with a lender? Maybe you've got to work with a new lender who's more flexible, or maybe have backup lenders for when this one falls through, you could divert to this one because you're having too many contracts fall through due to financing. And you can't get all of your ducks in a row with the financing together fast enough. So maybe that's the problem. Or maybe it could be with the inspections. Maybe your clients, maybe typically it seems to you like your clients, every single time there's an inspection, they want to tear up the contract. What's the least common denominator here? If it's one client, okay, maybe that's the client. But if you experience that with more than one client, I would venture to say there might be something you're doing that could be influencing that. And if there's not something you're doing that could be influencing that, what could you do that would influence that to make that not happen? Because that's the mark of a professional. The mark of a professional is somebody who can predict what's about to happen and take preventative measures before things get out of control. That's what we're here to do as real estate professionals, keep things from getting out of control. And usually we just have to stay one step ahead, maybe 2 steps ahead if we really want to be good. Little things like that you could do, little tweaks. But let's say when you're new, you're going to have more of these fall through. So it's better to be conservative. So let's plan that we're going to have 10 contracts fall through. You might have even more than that. Maybe you have 30 contracts and only 15 of them end up closing. Could that happen? Yes. Would that happen? No. I mean, even this might be a little high, but again, that depends on your business. It depends on your skill set. It depends on the clients. Maybe at different price points, you experience different problems as well. So it really depends on, again, your business, and that's why it's so important that you don't just work through this exercise, but you actually track your business. You keep tally of how many contracts you have, how many closings you have. You run the numbers on what your average commission is. You know, when you see people running businesses, what comes to mind when you think of somebody running a business? Running a business, what comes to mind? Some part of that vision, of that picture, of that image probably involves maybe a report or some numbers or something that's telling you how much money you're making or where the inefficiencies are. That's what knowing this will tell you. Because this is an inefficiency right here. You see this and you say, well, wait a minute. You know, because if I had these extra 10 contracts close, if I had 10 contracts more close, that'd be an extra $70,000. So what happened to these 10 contracts here? That's a huge problem that you could solve. That's a huge opportunity. But if you're not keeping track of these things, you might not realize that opportunity that's right under your nose. So that's why it's so important, not that you just plan this out once, but you look at this on a consistent, regular basis to understand what's going on in your business. Now, to get to 25 contracts, how do we get to 25 contracts? Well, this is where you could really start to get specific. And that's what we do in our post-licensing course, again, to mention that. The post-licensing course, we would break this down into buyers as well as sellers. Because how many meetings you need to have with a seller are typically far less than how many appointments, how many showings you'd have to have with a buyer. Now, things are more virtual nowadays. There's more virtual tours, there's more virtual videos, there's a lot of that going on. But there's still showings. And the other side of it, the part that's crazy right now when you're working with buyers, anybody out there with a real estate license could definitely tell you this, is it can be difficult to get your contract accepted working with a buyer. Why? Because there's so many other buyers. And at least that's the problem we're having here in Florida, specifically Tampa. We've been seeing that quite a bit, but that seems to be the case not just through Florida, but to a certain degree throughout a lot of the country. And that might just be from things coming back to life after going into hibernation for almost a year, it seems. So whatever the case may be, this is how you could understand what's going on in your business here. And with a business plan where you've got this broken down to how many buyers and how many sellers it is that you want to get to, how many you need to get to these numbers. Let's say that you primarily work more with buyers. So let's say out of these numbers, to get to these 25 contracts. Let's say to get to these 25 contracts, you're going to have 10 listings and 15 buyers. And when I mean buyers actively looking buyer contracts, let's say. Because here we're just doing with contracts. Because we talk about buyers, and this is why it's important that you split these off. Because if you get 10 listings, especially in today's market, I would be surprised if you didn't have 10 listings sell within whatever period of time. Because what it seems is you don't need much time at all. You could sell a house in a weekend now if you got the tools that are available to modern day real estate professionals. So right now, these 10 listings will probably fly off the shelves. The 15 buyers, 15 buyer contracts, let's say. Let's not even talk about how many buyers we have to work with and how many fall through before we get to these contracts. But here we have to get to now the contract with 15 buyers. So if you're seeing that your business is more difficult, getting more difficult for buyers, well, that might be where you want to shift this. You're like, all right, let me try to get away from buyers and let me focus on listings. Let me try to get listings. Now, listings take time. They take more money up front, time and money up front to market, to secure the listings in the first place, to farm an area to become where you're recognizable. Now, you might just have a friend or family member saying, I need to sell their house, and that's a great place to start there. So maybe this is hard to do when you're starting off, but maybe the market, there's a lot of buyers out there, and there's not a lot of inventory, so if you could figure out a way to make this work, again, this is part of the strategy and the planning, and this is where you get really specific now into how you're marketing your business, how you're reaching out to your sphere of influence, of what it is that you're doing to get to these numbers here. But let's jump back over here to buyers, because like I said, sellers, listings, especially in the market we have right now, that's a pretty sure thing, because as long as they're not trying to sell their property for some astronomical price way above asking, or way above market value, I mean, because properties are selling above asking, but that seems to be what the market values are there. But anyway, so market's crazy right now, especially if you're a seller. Now's a great time to sell. Maybe it'll go up higher, but, I would say, take the money and run if you can. But let's say you want to get 10 buyers. 10 buyers that will probably close, meaning under contract. How many buyers do you have to be out there showing homes to? Again, in a market like now, buyers have to be more competitive. They have to be willing to pay more for less. And that's happening more rapidly than it has been before. And you see buyers pull back as prices get higher. And so you might just have buyers that just say, you know what, I'm just going to wait. I'm going to wait, for prices to correct a little bit, for prices to come down a little bit. I'm wait for the hype to die down. I'm sick of competing with so many people because there's so few properties available. For whatever reason, people have been wanting to sell their homes, but, as more homes become available, as more new homes are built, as people sell their homes, that'll create more supply, especially as the buyer side dies down, and things will normalize a little bit more. But this is one example of how you could swing your business depending on what's going on in the market. So you could, again, track this and realize, okay, if I want to get more listings, I need to double down and invest more in sending out market reports and advertising in this area, whatever it is that you're doing that's part of your individual plan of how you're getting leads for that. Buyers, how do you get buyer leads? Well, there's a million places selling buyer leads, Zillow, Realtor.com, everybody's got buyer leads out there, and there's a lot of buyers that are out there. And if you could get this buyer under contract in a contract that closes, you'll make a lot of money off of that, just like you'd make a lot of money off the sellers. But the things that take longer when you're working with buyers, and this is what you want to account for, is more showings, more appointments, and those are 4 showings. And it's great that buyers are looking more online now, because that cuts down the number of in-person showings. It's great that listing agents have adapted to a more virtual market where they're willing to invest in good quality professional photographers that take pictures that show what a property would look like in a well-lit setting, not just some dark little iPhone photo with the virtual tours and all that. So that makes it easier right now to be a buyer's agent than what it used to be, because you're not having to show as much. But it's extremely rare that people will want to make the biggest purchase of their lifetime without going to actually visit it and see it. And chances are, a lot of times they might visit and see it. And this is the downside to those fantastic photos, is sometimes the photos might look great on, what do they call it, catfishing, where the photos look great online, then you get to the house in real life and you're like, whoa, what is this here? Oh, that's why this house is still for sale. They didn't have the smell. They didn't mention the smell online, or whatever it may be. Point being that when you're working with buyers, you have to plan for more of that. You have to plan for more to slip through the cracks, more to fall through. And again, you could track this, so you could try to be preventative, put on your doctor cap and try to figure out, diagnose what the problem is, be the mechanic of your business system to dial that in better. But over the long term, I would suggest building your listing business, and your listings will provide you free buyer leads for people that are that are interested in your listings. But let's again, because we don't have all data to break these down into two different categories here. So let's just say we need to have 25 contracts, and to get to 25 contracts, let's say that we need to have, we'll say 50 clients. 50 potentials, 50 potential clients. To get to 25 contracts, to 15 closings. And if it holds true at our average prices, we'll end up, even with a 70% commission split here, with that $100,000. But now, how do we get to 50 clients? How many leads do we need? Now, what's the difference between a client and a lead? Well, I would say a client is somebody that you've actually met with, that's agreed to do business with you, or is at least highly interested in doing business with you after meeting with you. Even that, I wouldn't necessarily call that a client. So before they're a client, they're a what? They're a lead. And how many leads do you need to get to 50 clients? It could be 100. Maybe it's 200. It depends on where you're getting these leads from. If you're getting these leads from maybe somewhere like one of these retail lead sites, or maybe you have a lead website, again, this is why you want to track all this, because they're all different depending on the price points, depending on the market, depending on how you operate your business. So always, always, always track this and review this, so you could, again, keep tabs on what's working and what isn't working in your business. Do more of what's working, less of what doesn't work. Let's say you need 100 leads. You know, actually, we'll do this. 365 leads. We'll make the math easy. Now, 365 leads to get to 50 clients, to get to 25 contracts, to 15 closings, sounds like a good plan. This would mean we basically just need to get one lead a day. We generate one lead a day. If we generate one lead a day, we should definitely end up with at least 50 clients. I mean, you have to get some low quality, not really interested, just people that you know, if we're counting out of the 365. I mean, we could be talking about people that are, just people that you know. Friends, family member. They might not have any need for real estate services right now, but they might down the road. And they might know somebody who has a need for real estate services right now. They call that your sphere of influence. Anybody you could get potentially in contact with, that's where I would consider them a lead. When you've got a name, an email, a phone number, some way to contact them. That's when I would consider them a lead. So tracking this will dial in your business. And again, if you go on our website and search business planning, you'll find that business plan calculator. Right, that's tsre.us, tampaschoolofrealestate.com, or you just go to tsre.us. Just search for business planning. You'll find our business plan calculator, and that still doesn't go quite as in-depth and detailed as you could go building out, because really this is just understanding the financials, and that's really what that business plan calculator is all about, is understanding what are the actions you need to take. Because see how we could break that down to one lead a day, 7 leads a week, 30 leads a month. When you break it down into those bite-sized chunks, you're able to better understand what you need to be doing on a daily basis as opposed to just on a yearly basis. Because if you wait until December 31st and kind of look back and say, well, I guess those 25 leads I got weren't good enough. No, if you just work this plan once here, you'll realize, okay, I need to have a ton of leads, because not all of them will be clients. And even not all those that are going to be clients that have been met with that are interested in buying a house, not all of them will buy a house. Not all of them will want to sell. Some of them will change their mind, get cold feet, whatever it is. And even when we get our contracts, not all of them will close. So when we plan for this, we could take the necessary actions up front to ensure our success down the road. So we've done a lot of topics. We've done a lot of episodes before on business planning. So if you search on our Success Center, on our YouTube, on our Facebook, wherever it is that you're watching our videos, you can find a lot more detail on this and really going deeper into this. Check out that business plan calculator on our website. And then most importantly, if you haven't enrolled in post licensing yet and you have a real estate license, this is a requirement. You need to complete this course. Otherwise, they will take your license away and you'll go null and void. And you might be saying, well, John, I'm not sure if I want to do anything with real estate. I haven't really figured it out yet. Of course you haven't figured it out yet. You haven't taken post-licensing. That's where you figure it out. Trust me, I was in your shoes and I made the exact same mistake. I didn't want to take post-licensing because I thought it was just like pre-licensing all over again, and it's not. Yes, there are some laws and rules here and there, but we talk about business planning. We talk about submitting offers and really doing real estate business, the stuff you probably thought you're going to learn about when you originally took a real estate course. So get enrolled in that post-licensing course. It'll complete your renewal requirement. It'll help you jumpstart your real estate career. You can find out more details on post-licensing, when you need to take it, at postflorida.com. That's postflorida.com. Or just give us a call. The phone number is 813-333-2676. Again, that's 813-333-2676. If you guys like today's topic on business planning, make sure you give me a thumbs up so that way we know to do more topics on business planning and help you guys figuring out what you have to do to succeed in real estate, or let us know in the comments what you guys thought of today. Make sure you're subscribed, and I'll see you guys next week. Are you studying for your Florida real estate exam? If you are, you need to check out our Pass First Try strategy. You're gonna love this. It's 4 steps that we break down the process to study for your Florida real estate exam. So you're set up to pass your Florida real estate exam because that's what you're studying for, right? To pass your exam. It's 4 steps. Number 1, you learn the information. You've got to learn this to be able to pass the exam, but it doesn't stop at learning. Step 2, you've got to reinforce the basic, simple, key concepts. As you learn this information, keep reviewing the simple things. You don't need to know everything, but you got to review these basic key concepts. Step 3, you've got to test your knowledge. The exam's going to test your knowledge, so if you don't test your knowledge in advance, you won't find out if you know what you think you know until you take the exam. And then step 4 is be confident and prepared, because even if you know this material, you need to be confident that you know the material. Check out the full strategy at passfirsttry.com. That's passfirsttry.com. State of real estate. Every Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time. Grow your real estate business.